Hey everybody, so this is Christopher Colagiani, and this is the first episode. It's kind of a mini episode of the first podcast that I'm actually going to try to follow through with. I've tried starting a couple podcasts in the past. So this is called Life and All That, and the idea is that we all have a lot of stuff that's going on, and we all have many different interests, and we have things that are fun to talk about, interesting to talk about. So my goal with this is to talk about some things that are important to me, some things that I find interesting, and I like meeting with new people and discussing new ideas, and especially as a scientist, and that's a big piece of what we do. So I'm looking forward to this opportunity to sit here and talk with whoever is interested in hearing. The good news is I actually have this set up so that we can do live chat on here. You can send me emails. You can call me. I can do Skype. We have it set up so that I'd like to try to do these live as many times as possible. So you'll have to kind of keep an eye out on my Twitter and see at NeuroMuslim and see when we're going to go live, and then you can respond. So I'd like to just first of all say, thank you to everybody who responded on Twitter. It was amazing response, and friends and, people who I've not met in person, but gave support on Twitter. I really appreciate it. And from other people across the ocean in England. I've been on a couple of radio shows for our religious community, the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. We have our own radio station in England, and so Voice of Islam, or VOI, and I've been on Drive Time a couple times, which is a show there. So super excited for that opportunity, and really glad that I got positive feedback from everybody there. So I'm trying to start this off. I'd like to just start with a little bit about me, and then I also can tell you guys kind of what I'm hoping to do with this and some of the topics. I'll give you a little bit of insight today of just some things. But so for anybody that knows me, so my background coming from predominantly a business background. Everybody in family, in my entire family, has been involved in business, and I had a lot of strong women in my life, so it was really, for me, one of the things that is a theme that I'll probably reference quite a few times, is the need for strong women, and then also balancing that with saying, women who can come in and be who they are without having to try to be somebody else. I had a mom who has been a business owner of a number of different businesses, different kinds of businesses. My grandmother worked with my grandfather. They ran a business for 40 years. They built it from the ground up. I have aunts and cousins and many people in my life, and I've always worked in fields that were predominantly female, minus my time in the military. But everywhere else that I've worked, it's been really fascinating. So for me, my experience is probably a bit different than others. I'm not very old, I'm 35 years old, so not tremendously old. But one of the things that I've found personally is that it turns out that I've always believed in having an experience wherever you go, and finding new things to do and finding new things to experience in each and every moment of life. And if something new and exciting comes up, to just jump in, feet first, and say, let's give it a shot. Because of that, there's a lot of things that I might have an opinion on, or might have a thought on. There's a lot of things that I've researched, I've spent time on. So hopefully I can express my excitement in certain things, or my concerns, and I do it efficiently and effectively. That's obviously important to me. So specifically, some of the things that are really special and important to me, I've studied culture and religion and things like that, especially languages and culture and religion are three areas that I'm really fascinated with, especially historical cultures and peoples. So you'll see that I talk a lot about that. The other thing that you'll hear from me is especially talking about religion. For anybody that doesn't know, I am an Ahmadi Muslim, so I joined the Ahmadiyya Muslim community about 5 years ago now, and it wasn't a light decision either. It was something that I definitely took time to go through, and I got educated, and I made that decision. It was, for me, it's one of the best decisions I feel like I've ever made. I'm very satisfied with it, and excited to have this as something that's a part of my life. I think that also gives me an opportunity to educate other people when it comes to Islam, But I also like to have interfaith discussions. So when it comes to religious discussions, I want to have discussions about things like, people say, well, as a Muslim, you don't believe in science, or because, you have a strong religious focus, you don't believe in science. That's silly. That's completely silly. There are other things that I get from people who say, well, you just did this because you're the token white guy. You gave this up. I've heard a million different things. I hope I have an opportunity to dispel that. I'm open to dialogue with anyone, so please know that if you're listening to this and you say, well, I have strong opinions against what you think or what you believe or what you feel, that's fine. The only thing I ask to anybody that wants to join in the discussion about anything, any topic that we're talking about on the podcast is please just be respectful and come with an educated perspective. I don't want to have to get to a point that it's I'm having to remove people. But if you're cursing and you're screaming and you're yelling and all that, I'm just not going to entertain that at all. Honestly, we can have a good time. We can have a strong debate, and I'm completely okay with that. I just am not okay with the idea of being nasty. So other things that I think are really important. So I am a first-year PhD student, and so a lot of the science stuff I love science, any science. I'm super excited to hear from any area of science, any type of scientist. If there's specific things that somebody says, oh, I really want to talk about this thing I read, I want to have those discussions. I think it's important for us to have those discussions on a public level and make it accessible, not just to people within our own field, but to people across in other fields. So my specific area, I did my undergrad and I did a master's. I'm still finishing up my thesis on that, but otherwise done on my master's for psychology. My undergrad was psychology with a concentration in organizational studies, so business psychology. And then my master's is general psychology with a concentration in behavioral neuroscience. And then now I'm doing my PhD in neuroscience at Delaware State University. And so I'm super excited to talk about, anything that has to do with the brain, nervous system. A lot of what we're doing is very cellular and molecular, but I also am doing behavioral. And so those are fun topics for me. I love computational. So if anyone wants to talk big data, and I'm super excited for that too. So, you guys can see there's a lot of different topics there. If you want to talk about space, if you want to talk about physics, if you want to talk about mathematics, whatever it is, just know that in some cases I may not necessarily be the expert, but I'll do the best I can to join in. But if, even if you just have something that you say, look, I'd really like to hear about this, or I'd like to share this, I'd love to be able to bring people on at any point in time and say, hey, what's your thought for today? And so hopefully we get a chance to do that. So some other things that I think are really important. My wife is, I'm hoping to have her on. She's a clinical psychologist. She's also right now, though she is a clinical psychologist, has traditionally done, clinical therapy. She is, right now she is a school psychologist here in Dover, Delaware, and that has its own kind of field of challenges. So I think that's a good area to talk about as well. There's a lot of kids that need help, and I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about how to help them and what they need help with and what is available to help them and those kinds of things. And I think not everybody is aware of the kinds of challenges that are being faced out here. So I think that's interesting to discuss as well. Let's see. So, obviously, like the current affairs, things like that, I think are going to be a hot topic, especially as long as we have, I make no bones about it. I'm probably fairly conservative in some things. However, I'm a Democrat. I'm maybe more of a conservative Democrat, but I have no problem having discussions with Republicans or Democrats. That shouldn't turn you off from listening or joining in. I definitely want to hear both sides of things, and I hope that we can have, again, good discussion, and I really hope that I hope that it can be respectful and educational and helpful for everybody. The other side of that is that, I don't want to get into name calling and being ugly. I don't mind having a passionate discussion about something, but again, especially politics and religion, these are topics that can get very emotional. And I just ask that anybody that's listening, just, listen with an objective side. And you can, obviously have your feelings as well. But if you're going to respond, try to respond with the same kind of respect that you would expect. Some other things. Let's see. So I like to cook. I may talk about food and cooking. I have 3 kids, so I may talk about that. There's just depends on whatever's going on. I think the other thing that's a huge topic for me that I experience day in and day out that will probably be an ongoing thread, because I have quite a few opinions on it, is the graduate school life, PhD life, academia as a whole, teaching. These are things that I take very personally and very seriously. and I really just hope that in the overall that we're able to come together and have that discussion. I think that there's, based on my Twitter followers and my Twitter feed, a lot of people I've talked to, I've met in other settings, I think that we have a lot of people available within my kind of social network and the ecosystem that I'm a part of that can share a lot of really good advice and a lot of good perspectives, and I'd love to have those discussions. And I think that's how we make change, right? So we see that the more that we just accept the status quo, then it just is going to be what it is. So, I'd ask, send me emails, send me text messages, send me a chat, or get in touch with me in some way, shape, or form. It's not hard. If you search for me, you can find me. There's plenty of stuff out there, plenty of different ways you can contact me. Let's have the discussion. I mean, I'm not going to have the answers on everything. I may have opinions on stuff, and obviously I'll do my research on things, and so I try to come to the table with the facts that I can possibly, as much as I possibly can. But the truth is that there's a lot of people with a lot more experience in a lot more areas than myself, and so I want to learn as much as anybody. So I really hope that we can pull together that discussion. Talk about whatever is on your mind, and that's why it's life and all that, because there's really genuinely just so much happening every single day. There's so many things out there, stuff that many of us may not have experienced, may not know about, and so let's share, let's broaden each other's horizons. Let's come together. Let's be that one global community. From wherever you are and whoever you are and whatever opinions you may have. I want to hear them. I think other people probably want to hear them, and I think let's just talk. So thanks so much. And again, so for those that are hearing this right now, or that hear this later, keep looking out. I'll have probably some recorded sessions that I'll upload, but I will also try to be pretty clear about when I'm going to try to do some recorded sessions, and then also the live sessions. So you gotta follow me on Twitter to see the live sessions. All right, so thanks so much, everybody, and I look forward to hopefully having some live, longer discussions very soon. Thanks so much.